today we are going to talk about sociometry and its practical use.
When people have more choice, they begin to feel safer. And when the next person comes in, rarely, if they don't know each other, would someone sit directly next to someone else. I have been waiting for this group for a really long time. I cannot wait to talk. I consider myself extremely shy. It's hard for me to get out of the house. I am agoraphobic. I just don't like being around people.
Welcome to AB Lifetime, channel about mental health. And I am with John Olesen. Could you please tell a little bit about sociometry, just generally, what's that?
Okay, well, sociometry can be divided into two. So the first half would be socio, which means people, and sociometry, metry means metric or measure. So it's really the measurement of social interaction and social energies. Okay. It was a term that was coined by J.L Moreno, the founder of Psychodrama. When he was in Austria at Mittendorf in 1915 to 1917, he was the doctor for a refugee camp. And this is where he started to develop some of his ideas around personal choices and health. Okay. So he noticed that when people had more choice, they could make a difficult situation better. So later, he went on to explore this idea of sociometry and measuring the choices of groups in Sing Sing prison.
When he already moved to the U.S.
To the U.S. And then later he did an extended study in the 1930s from, I think, 1932 to 1938 at the Hudson School for Girls, which was a reform school. And what was happening there was the girls were all running away and having a terrible time and being very, very unhappy. And so Moreno, using some of his principles and ideas that he had learned through sociometric choice at Mittendorf and at Sing Sing, introduced the idea of giving the girls more choices in where they might live for their residence at the girls' home, and who they might have as a house mother. And they found that when the girls had more choice of who they could be with, who they could live with, that they didn't run away. These ideas of choice have been expanded, and so they've been explored in educational systems, in the military, and certainly in therapy groups too. When people have more choice, they begin to feel safer. They feel much more empowered.
Could you please tell a little bit more about this choice? Like, how did he offer them to make these choices, or how did it work?
What he did was he interviewed them. Okay. Who would you most want to live with? Who would be a neutral choice for you? And is there anyone here who you really don't want to live with? And so he collected this data and put it into a matrix and used it to make assignments for the living situations for the girls.
The goal of sociometry.
Okay, I think that the goal of sociometry is really to bring people together. Okay, I like to use sociometry as a warm-up in a psychodrama group, because to bring people together, to help them feel safe, to help them feel connected with each other. And there are many ways to do that. Okay, and we'll be talking about some of those later today.
10 people coming into the group, and the first time they see each other for first time, how, just for people who don't know anything about sociometry, how we can connect these people to each other, 10 people who first time in their life see each other with sociometry.
Okay, sure. No, we all make choices rapidly all the time in our minds. So let's not even take it as a therapy group. Let's just take it going into a party. You walk into a party, you don't know anyone at the party, you look around, you might want to find a space in the room where you feel most comfortable. Maybe that's by the food, maybe that's over by the music, maybe it's by the balcony.
Right.
Something like that.
Or by the drinks, right?
By the drink, exactly, by the drink. And so you see who is in that general area. Okay, and maybe you have something in common with them. In a group situation, when you have chairs in a circle, it's very interesting to see people come in and select their chair. So they'll select a chair, and when the next person comes in, rarely, if they don't know each other, would someone sit directly next to someone else if there were other chairs available.
Oh, right. Usually it's space between. They keep space. Right.
Right. Then, as the spaces fill up, it's fun to watch people make choices. Where will they sit? Many times people will almost pretend that the choice is arbitrary. I guess I'll sit over here. But I think the choices run deeper. That this could be a good place for me to sit. And then I've noticed that people tend to sit in the same place all the time.
Right.
Group after group after group. And next to the same people. So these are choices that are just being exposed. So then you can maybe do a therapeutic intervention by asking people to change their seats or sit next to someone they've never
Right.
sat
And
next
I
to.
remember even from, for example, some sort of group, I am sitting in this space, and when you come back after the lunch and see other person sits on your space, you are kind of getting pissed, right?
Right. Pissed or surprised or faced with the dilemma of having to make another choice. And where do you go? And would you have to explain yourself? Would you just go find another seat, or would you go and find another seat and say, I'm picking this seat because my seat was taken, or I'm sitting here because I wanted to sit next to you?
With this information, or with this, again, coming back to the new group, what we can do, like with this information, how we can practically use that information when we see how people sit or how they pick up the seats, or what we can do with that?
Well, I think there's so many issues that arise in a new group with people coming in, and people want to obey the unwritten social rules of the group. Do we talk? Do we not talk? I don't want to be intrusive. I'll wait quietly until the leader comes in and gives me directions. Or I know I'll be with these people for a while. I'm going to make the choice to introduce myself to the other people in the group and be friendly. These are all choices. It's just interesting to watch behaviors, I think, and to see where alliances are formed and started. And later, what sociometry can do is make these choices more overt and make people aware of, give people the space to be more aware of their choices and how they make choices and why they make the choices that they do.
And if to talk about the connection, the building connection between people based on sociometry, Could you please tell about that? Like when again coming back to the new group, or people don't, or maybe they know each other but not that good, and they would like to know about each other. How we can use sociometry to build the connection between them?
I think if we go back to the idea that sociometry is the measurement of the social connections in the group. What a facilitator can do is help strengthen and build connection in a group. I think for me, I know when I've gone to a new group, I want to hear the ground rules for the group. What are the parameters of the group?
Right.
What some sort of statements of how to keep the group safe, confidentiality, bathroom breaks, when the group starts, when the group ends, so that I can begin to trust the structure of the group. And once I understand the structure of the group, then I can have freedom to make connections within the group. Sociometry helps people make those connections, and a facilitator with a knowledge of sociometry can help strengthen a group, build a group, warm a group up, get a group ready for action. One of the things that I like to do, Anna, is in a new group is role reverse with someone who hasn't been to many groups before, so, and who might not be particularly glad to be in the room.
All right. Wow.
So I'm feeling a little bit in my role reversal. I might feel a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit shy, a little bit in that wait and see place. This is an internal process that I'm feeling. Okay. So just in a way, it's kind of going around. That might be one person in the group. Okay. A shy person. Okay. Another person would be, I have been waiting for this group for a really long time. I cannot wait to talk. I know I have things to say and things I want to do.
Right.
And they're very active. So you have two ends of a spectrum in that. So that's interesting for me. So what I do is I double each possible ends of spectrum of where people might be emotionally coming to the group. Okay. And I want to respect that both are great places to come from. That one is not better than another. I'm just collecting criteria.
The information.
And then making a guess of what people might need. Okay? And so one thing I know from my own experience of being new in groups is that when after the facilitator has created the safe space, oftentimes we'll go around the room and say our names and why we're here. Well, if you're a shy person, speaking to 10 other people could be a very difficult thing to do if you've never spoken to them before. I think it's much easier to speak to one person than it is to speak to the whole group. So one of the things that I might do is to break the group up into dyads. So someone could warm up introducing themselves to one other person first, and they could get into a conversation. Now then, it brings up a very interesting point. If you say to someone, I like to break the group up into dyads, please choose someone to be your partner. For some people, that is a very difficult challenge. It's sort of like, I am shy about putting my choice out.
Right.
Or I can't choose. I hope someone chooses me, and becomes very difficult for people. And it's also a challenge. In a more advanced group asking someone to pick a partner is an easy thing. It's not even thought about. But in an early group, it could be very hard. So I might divide the group up into pairs and have them introduce themselves to each other and talk to each other and get to know each other a little bit. And then maybe come back to the group and have the partner introduce the other person to the group. It's a little warmer, and what we're trying to do through sociometry is build connection. So the connection of the dyad begins to strengthen the group. And then there are other sociometric interventions that Moreno created that will bring a group even further together.
Some people are shy to make their choice.
I think that the easiest way to make a choice is by proximity. And by that I mean the easiest way to choose someone is to choose someone who is closest to you.
All right, and you give to the group this, right?
Right, but
you
I
make your
might,
choice.
but I might choreograph it a little bit. So I see that you two are sitting next to each other. Would you two be partners?
Okay.
And I invite people to work together as opposed to making it A B A B A B A B. Just in a very kind of warm human way. Oh, it'd be wonderful if you two would work together.
Okay.
And then I also acknowledge that this particular dyad or couple won't be together for the entire group. We're just doing this as a warm-up introductory exercise. Because I don't know, maybe the two people that I put together don't like each other. You know, and it would be uncomfortable for them to be together. But for a short exercise, I think it works. What I'd like to do is find commonalities and similarities of a group, and so and to honor those, and then to also honor the differences and the things that people bring that are unique to them, to the group. So what I'm trying to do is, in the early part of the group, is to create safety and to create the feeling of safety through connection. So a spectrogram that you mentioned is one way to do that. If the goal of sociometry is to connect people, sociometry can be used in action to further that goal. And it's exciting to see how quickly it can be used. So today I'm going to be talking about 4 ways to help connect a group, help warm a group up to action, and then to have sharing. I'll be talking about dyads, I'll be talking about spectrogram, I'll be talking about locograms, and also something called step in sociometry. You can see on spectrograms and locograms, they have the word gram in it. That simply means measurement. Okay, and so what we're doing is we're measuring the connections of the group. The first sociometric intervention that we'll be looking at is called a dyad. And as a facilitator, what I would do would be to pair people up in a gentle and inviting way to introduce themselves to each other. So I might go, oh, John, would you work with Anna today and just introduce yourself, tell her something that the group might not know, and then after a few minutes, maybe a minute or two, switch partners, and as a facilitator, I facilitate the switch. I have a little bell that I ring, or I simply invite people to switch partners. Would the second person please go? Then Anna would introduce herself to me and tell me something that the group might not know. Then what I often do is afterwards come back to the group as a whole and have Anna introduce me to the group, and I would introduce Anna to the group. But the first person that I would be talking to in the group on a deeper level would be one other person. So the dyad is a way for me to warm up to talking to the group and sharing with the group who I am. So that's the first way. The second way might be called a spectrogram. And a spectrogram is simply a measurement between two poles. In this pole, I might select all of Moreno's ideas around sociometry came through the idea of choice. And each choice has a criteria. So what is the criteria for a choice? So let's say that this is a spectrum, like a light spectrum or a sound spectrum or even like a thermometer. At this end of the spectrum might be, I consider myself extremely shy. It's hard for me to get out of the house. I am agoraphobic. I just don't like being around people. And at this end of the spectrum is a total extrovert. This is a person that likes being the center of the show. I love people. I love connecting with people. I love being seen, and I love seeing other people.
And I love to be particularly in this group, right?
Well, right, perhaps, yeah, right. So if we look at this group where we're members, without knowing the other people in the group, where would you put yourself in relationship to the other people in the group? Okay. So you might, and I invite people to test out their gut feelings. You don't know where you might be without checking it out with other people. So it kind of challenges a group to connect with each other, to begin talking with each other. Do you see yourself as shy? Whatever. Are you extroverted? Well, here's a pen. And just in an imaginary group, where would you put yourself on this spectrum?
Okay, I would be, let's put me here.
That sounds good. Okay, and let's say another woman came in the group, and she put herself here. Okay, so she's not the most shy, and you're certainly not the most extroverted, but you're on the side of extroversion. She's on the side of introversion. Okay. What I might ask then is, what is the benefit for being an introvert? What are some of the wonderful things that you gain by being an introvert? Would you be able to tell that to Anna, who is on the this side of the spectrum? And then it would be a role reverse. Anna, what would you tell this person? In fact, what would you tell someone who was more shy in a group? What would you tell someone?
Being here, right?
Yes.
What I would tell? I would tell, it feels so comfortable to be here. Just being here feels like I have energy.
Energy.
Yes.
And this side, taking the role of this person, it's this, I have energy here, but it allows me to see myself from the inside. So I feel connected to my insides very much. Okay. So it's just a way to see yourself on this spectrum. We could easily then change the criteria. You can leave the line, we'd take away this lady.
Okay.
we leave this spectrogram and we do another spectrogram. I like to ask the group what they're interested in. Okay, so they might have a question for the rest of the people in the group that might be true for themselves, but they'd be curious to find out about who else in the group felt that way. So, who in the group has had a lot of experience in being in groups before? Put yourself at this side if you're experienced, and you decide what that word experienced in group means.
Right.
And this is relatively new to group inexperienced. Now, it challenges group members to talk to each other, so that if I might put myself, I think I might be the most experienced person in the group because I've been in 2 groups before. But when I check it out with you, and you've been in 15 groups before, I realize I am not so far in the spectrum as you are.
Right.
Each place on the spectrum has an offering to the rest of the group. The newest person has a wealth of knowledge, has a beginner's mind that they bring. And the experienced person has the experience that they've had in other groups, what worked, what didn't work, and the strength that they bring to strengthen this group.
When you would ask them to share from their position where they place themselves, in which situations you would ask them to share from where they place themselves? And what is it used for?
Well, again,
sharing.
what as a facilitator, what I'm doing is I'm warming the group up and I'm trying to help create connections. Okay. So as the 10 people put themselves on the board,
Okay.
I look to see who's talking with who, and I encourage people to check it out with each other why they put themselves on the spectrum. If if there was someone who was just by themselves here, I might ask them to share with these people who are the closest people, okay? And then return to their spot. I want to honor their choice of putting themselves at the end of the spectrum, but I also am using this to connect the group members. So people would talk with the other group members why they put themselves on the spectrum. Then I'd ask for them to be quiet, and I might interview 1 or 2 people from a different place on the spectrum. You don't want to spend too long on each spectrum, okay? There are so many we can look at. Usually I do 2 or 3 spectrums with a new group, and then let that go. I'm also looking at how people are reacting to this. So this actually, in a group, is a first piece of action. So I've asked people to stand on their feet. I've identified 2 ends of a spectrum across the room. They've gotten up, they've spoken with each other. We might return to our seats in the circle and just share, how was that for people to connect with others? Always, I have a mantra that I always use, which is warm up, action, sharing. And so warming people up to getting on their feet, doing something in action, and then how does that land for you? So I'm taking all of this information in, and it's open for the group to also hear about where other people are coming from.
All right.
So this particular sociometric intervention is wonderful for connecting people in a group. The criteria can be benign. It can come from the facilitator, or it can come from the group. I try to go for, I try to choose criteria that will bring people together.
Right. Uh-huh.
And that might share the beginning of a vulnerability or a strength.
The main just focus here is to bring people together, to find some similarities so people can relate themselves to.
Right. And to honor differences.
Right.
Because differences are what makes us strong. And so it's something that is uniquely brought to a group and strengthens the group.
John, could you please give the example of how just practical spectrograms just make up some sort of group, and what kind of criteria you would choose to combine people to work with each other?
Okay. Well, let's imagine we were working with a group of teachers, okay, at let's say a middle school. And the teachers are challenged with what could the teachers do to increase school morale, for instance. Okay. So what I do is I'd have the teachers all come together, okay, but then I might ask the teachers to do a spectrogram of experience. So the most, if you have had over 20 years of experience teaching in schools, put yourself at this end of the spectrum under very experienced. And if you are new to teaching, put yourself on this end of the spectrum. So the new teachers will be able to join, and the experienced teachers will be able to join, and the people who are relatively new but have some experience would also be able to join. There could be 3 groups, or let's say there was only one new teacher, several experienced teachers, and a few middle. So I might, if the goal of sociometry is to connect people, what is a question or a statement that the very experienced teachers could offer the new teacher? What is something that the new teacher might be able to offer everyone else? And what is someone who bridges that gap? What may they be able to bring to the experienced teachers and the new teachers in terms of raising morale? So each person on the spectrum has something to offer. This is a way to honor each person's gift and have people see where they are. So oftentimes a new person might have a question for more experienced people. I've often found people with a lot of experience have encouragement and maybe a word of wisdom for a new person, a welcoming. It's hard to be new, but it's also can be hard to be experienced as well. And each of these places on the spectrum have a gift to bring. And so through the gifts, we're connecting to the strengths, and through the strengths of the individuals, we're building the strengths of a group.
Technical question. You would let people be on their places and share from their places, right? In the group, it looks like people are on their places and they just share, and what, for example, what you could give to these people, right? And you let them speak from.
Right. I like to let people talk.
Right.
We're trying to get people to connect.
Right.
So oftentimes people will put themselves on a spectrum without talking. They try to do it intuitively. So I encourage people to check out with their neighbors. Are you in the right place? You know, you might think you have a lot of experience because you have 3 years, but you find that the people next to you have 25 or 35 or 40 years. Or you might feel like you're very new, but someone in the middle might have a similar experience. And so you really don't know if you don't connect with somebody else and find out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
One of my teachers, Dorothy Satin, would share this statement, and I often share it with groups. If you don't reveal yourself to a group, the group will invent you. And so this is a way to allow a group to see who you are, to be seen, and so that people won't project their own idea of who you are onto you.